No one ever wants to play the healer. That's just an unfortunate truth among many D&D groups. So, I made it my mission to change that. Today, I'm bringing you 5 brand new healing spells that won't only just patch you up, but will make you feel like the MVP of every combat encounter. Let's start off with a really unique spell that I call Synthesis. This is a 3rd level concentration spell that binds your life force with another willing creature of your choice. Any damage you or the bonded creature deals also heals the other bonded creature for half the total damage dealt. And that's it. It might sound super simple, but I think that's the beauty of this spell. It really empowers a tag team style of play with 2 players where they can really play off of each other's actions in combat. But don't just think you can bind a wizard to a barbarian and lob fireballs hoping to heal your frontline for free, because there are restrictions to the spell. Firstly, this spell is only available to a couple of classes and only functions in single target scenarios. Secondly, it does require concentration, so there's that. But third and most importantly, the spell only functions at a range of up to 15 feet. This means that both synthesized creatures must remain relatively close to each other and they can't just get free healing from range. This spell has some really cool synergies with classes like the Moon Druid, or really any class that wants to pick up the Warcaster feat for advantage on concentration checks. But even with those synergies, the spell can be pretty tricky to use, so make sure you plan ahead to make sure you don't risk losing it. Moving on to the second spell for today, we have a new cantrip that I call Soothing Reflex. You touch a creature, and if they take damage before the start of your next turn, then they can immediately roll a hit die and heal for the total amount rolled after taking that damage. Have you ever noticed how there's no healing cantrips in 5th edition? That's because healing cantrips would effectively provide unlimited healing, which would make short rests completely redundant. So why then did I decide to make a healing cantrip? Well, first off, this isn't just flat healing. It utilizes a creature's natural hit dice, which is a finite resource. Considering that, it isn't so much a healing cantrip as it is a mini short rest for that creature. By baking the hit die into the healing, it limits its possible potential and removes the risk of redundancy for short rests. The spell also varies greatly in how much healing could be done with it, since it utilizes a creature's hit dice. You can heal from a d6 all the way up to a d12, so the spell does obviously favor the higher hit dice classes. But perhaps the best part of Soothing Reflex is that it scales alongside the other cantrips. So at 5th level you can roll 2 hit die, at 11th level you can roll 3, and at 17th you can roll 4. So considering it scales and doesn't use a spell slot, this cantrip can really be valuable at all levels of play. But now we move back into the higher levels of spells with a new experimental spell I called Bonded Suffering. You attempt to bind your life force with another creature of your choice within 30 feet, and they must make a charisma saving throw, and on a failure, their life force is bound with your own. While within 30 feet of the bonded creature, you have resistance to any and all damage caused by that creature, and any damage you take is also taken by the bonded creature. Also, any damage you deal to the bonded creature heals you for the total damage dealt. You can probably tell that this spell is different. It's meant to give your enemies pause before they attack you, but they kind of have to attack you because the spell is concentration, but if they do that, they thereby damage themselves in the process, so it's kind of a lose-lose situation. But this spell does have a massive risk in that it is a save or suck spell, meaning that if they succeed on the saving throw, then that's just a spent spell slot. I haven't figured out another way to work with this spell. Like I said, it is experimental and very much in the alpha version, so I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, so let me know what you think, and if you have any suggestions, I'd love to hear them. Before we move on to spell number 4, I wanted to let you know that all of these spells and more are in a module I'm writing called Compendium. It has over 100 spells, 6 subclasses, all alongside a bunch of feats, magic items, and creatures that you can use in your table today. All of the spells will be released in videos like this, but if you're impatient and want to check out other homebrew, then you can join as a member or a patron down below. But don't worry if you can't, because like I said, all of these spells and more will be released slowly over time. Now for the 4th spell on today's list, we have the aptly named Protective Ward. This is a 1st level concentration spell that places a protective ward on a creature you can see within 30 feet. At the start of that creature's turn, as long as you're concentrating on the spell, they gain temporary hit points equal to your spellcasting ability modifier. Now you might be thinking, this isn't a healing spell, and this is the part of the video where we talk about damage mitigation and effective healing. Mitigating damage is generally seen as more efficient if you want to go down that route, but the amount that you mitigate might seem initially underwhelming. But really, that could not be further from the truth. In reality, any caster that uses this spell will grant a minimum of 4 temporary hit points at level 1. Considering that the temporary hit points effectively reset at the start of that creature's turn, while it's improbable, it is possible to effectively mitigate 40 points of damage. Honestly, the amount of mitigated damage is arguably overpowered, and I'm considering actually reducing this from your spellcasting modifier to just your proficiency bonus. But what do you think about that? Should I keep it as the spellcasting modifier, or just nerf it to the proficiency bonus of the caster? Let me know in the comments below. And as you're writing out your comment, we'll move on to the 5th and final spell for today's list, the 3rd level Innervation. You touch a willing creature and empower them with a nervous adrenaline. At the start of your next turn, the innervated creature heals 2d6 plus your spellcasting ability modifier. If the creature took damage that round after being innervated, then they are healed double the amount rolled, and they get to make an additional attack with their bonus action with advantage. So this spell acts kind of like an upgraded Soothing Reflex cantrip. It initially might sound strange as a delayed healing spell, but it's not really meant to be a traditional heal. It's really meant to be used in a more strategic manner and heavily rewards that mindset. If you cast this on a frontliner, then there's a pretty safe bet that they're going to take damage, meaning that they're going to get some extra healing and an additional attack with their bonus action with advantage. But it is a risk because if they don't take damage, then they're only going to heal 2d6 and that's it. But even though there is a technical risk, it's not necessarily difficult to figure out if they're going to take damage next round, so it can still be an incredibly valuable tool in any healer's toolkit. But that's it. If you want to see more homebrew spells, you can check out the playlist in the description below or in the corners up here and see all of the spells I've created thus far. And if you don't mind, I would love to hear your thoughts on these spells, so let me know what you think in the comment section below, and let me know if you have any cool spells of your own. I read every comment, almost always reply, and who knows, I might even feature your comment in the next video. Thank you very much for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you on Friday.